Hello, welcome to Studio Talks. My name's James Swift.
I'm Josh McNorton, and our guest today is
Krystian Hudson. Hello. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great, thank you.
Brilliant. How are you doing in the new lockdown?
I'm all right, I'm not too bad. I think I've been lucky with the lockdown because I've got a job in care, so I've not lost out on any work. I feel really bad on anybody who has. I had a child who's a year old now, so it was about 4 or 5 months going into the lockdown. So I've been very occupied. I've had a lot of time on my hands. I've managed to keep me creativity flowing, and the only thing I've missed really is playing gigs and putting gigs on and stuff like that. So I honestly can't complain.
Do you think it will be your first gig back will be harder?
I think I'll end up killing someone. I think someone might die. Maybe me. So, I don't know. It's going to be dangerous. That's what I'm saying. Someone, at very least, one of the band members might end up in hospital. So, yeah. I honestly don't think it. Like, as soon as that happens, it'll just be like the level of hype will be off the charts. It'll be unquantifiable. Yeah,
I'm kind of dreading my first gig after lockdown because I hadn't done it in about a year beforehand, so I'm already kind of out of practice. But like,
yeah,
like I'm like, oh, and also I can't talk to people now.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's the only point of awkwardness I could imagine for me is in what manner the gigs come back, because I just don't want that sort of atmosphere of like wariness that is inevitably going to happen when a lot of people are stuffed together in a room, And I don't think Salt the Snail will be playing any gigs until people can actually mingle. Which
definitely
might take a long time, but we'll see.
Because with Salt the Snail, like I've only seen you, I think, once, to be honest. But with that environment, that was you can't have a fractioned audience with that. I don't think, because that was a very what's the word? Like a communicative thing, if that makes sense. The audience, it was very much part of being part of the audience.
Yeah, it was. It's not something that goes hand in hand with being socially distanced.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, what's your history with music?
I've always been in bands for a long time of varying degrees of aptitude. I went from being in a band it's 6 years ago today. Actually, you've caught me on a significant day. It's 6 years ago today. I started running a promotion company and music website called Yeah Buddy. Prior to that, I used to just promote shows and I was in a band, but it was nothing. I wouldn't say it was anything to write home about, really, until Yeah Buddy started, and then things really took off in terms of my promotion of music and bands and my involvement within like actual music scenes across the country. From there, I started running a festival with a lad from a band who I used to promote called Andy Gilbert, who's now in Crapsons, and we ran a festival together called Liverpool Calling, which I think ran for about 4 or 5 events over from about 2014 to 2018. So that would mean 4. Let's say it was 4. That was in Liverpool. It was obviously because it's called Liverpool Calling. It was in the bombed out church mainly. Well, that was where our main stage was, and each year it'd be something different. So I think the biggest year we had was probably about 8 or 9 stages over 2 days, which was a really good event, and that was in 2018. And then since then we sort of moved away from it because Salt the Snail was taken off for myself and Crapsons was taken off for him, and I was getting work elsewhere in music, helping run festivals like Liverpool Music Week. I worked on within organising it and within artist liaison and things like that, and some stuff with the music magazine from Liverpool called Bido Lito. I'm not sure if you get that in the studio.
I'm not sure. It doesn't ring a bell now.
It's like a pink music magazine. I'll tell them to send some. I'll tell them to send it back for when people can come back in again.
Yeah.
And I've helped them on a few things, and now they'll run a venue in Birkenhead and a festival called Future Yard, and I helped them, and that pretty much takes us, that was last year, takes us up to August last year. And alongside that, at the same time, which is my current main squeeze at the moment, would be Salt the Snail and Society of Losers, which go hand in hand. As Society of Losers was something that came about to help myself promote Salt the Snail, and Craig Twig, who I run it with, promote Infants, both of which Tom, who you had on the podcast, is in. So we started the label just as a little bit of extra promotion and something cool. We could run some gigs, and it was something a bit different than your standard, like 4 bands on a bill kind of gig. We wanted to do it as like taking over venues and do like all sorts of different nights, and it was specific types of music, and the idea of being a loser, and like we're all chasing this sort of this dream that we might never achieve, so we're all losers, and it's like a bit of a tongue-in-cheek way of looking at it. So we started that together. We're going down with the ship. I am a loser, and I've planted me flags to the planted me colours to the mast now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Brilliant. So what is the origin of Salt the Snail?
Ooh, so Salt the Snail. Did you ask Tom this? Because I imagine you asked Tom this and he just went, I don't really know. This is what happened with Tom. I feel like you're asking me because he didn't give a satisfactory answer, maybe. So we used to gig together, and we became friends with him, with them being from Runcorn and us being from Widnes, and they practiced at the studio, and sometimes we would too, and we play similar venues and stuff, and maybe even the same shows every now and again. And Tom and Liam were like kids back then, like potentially like 14, 15 or something, when they were in Springbok, and Springbok was insanely powerful. And then when you put that against how old they actually were, where it's so astonishing that they made the music that they were making. Yeah, we knew Tom. My band Dirty Vagrants at the time lost the drummer, and Tom, so we asked Tom to fill in, and from there we only ended up playing one gig, and Tom went away to uni, and then I was going away doing buddy stuff and promoting gigs and stuff. So we sort of went a bit quiet for a bit. Then we just started so our names in Salt the Snail are the Stray, the Wild Card, and the Wardrobe. This was the original 3.
Wow, I didn't know.
We started just, well, it's just like silly names we have for each other, but we just started messing about in the studio on Friday nights. We'd go in, and we'd just get a load of cans and order a pizza, and we'd just write some daft music, and it was going really well, and it just went from there. It was never really intended to be anything other than just us having an outlet to write some daft music. But then we started to like, you write a song sometimes and you're like, you know what, that's actually quite good. I find myself singing that, and we should see what this is like. It was like a fluke that we ended up playing the show, because alongside me sort of being involved with a lot of bands and venues, someone found out, a lad called Tim Davis from the Ferret, his band are on Society of Losers, they're called Sweet Deals on Surgery, and he found out that, like, from me, that we were in a band and we'd been messing about, and he was the booker at the Ferret in Preston, and he was like, honestly, just come and play. There's like no pressure whatsoever. Come down, it'll be a laugh. So it was like a great opportunity, and we took it. And you know what? Like we got such like a great reaction from people that that's literally what lit the blue touch paper or whatever, that lit the fuse for everything that was beyond that, because we honestly didn't feel like it was going to be anything other than us just having a laugh. And from there, it's became like this massive thing that's been a big part of our lives. And we played all over the country, played in played a tour in Ireland. I mean, last year we must have played like 50 shows. We've got 2 extra members now, and it's just really just gone to another level.
I think, and I mean this, how I'm going to say this sounds like I'm being negative, and I promise I'm not. I mean this in a completely positive way. I think one of the things I really like about Salt the Snail is just looking at you play, you can tell you are having fun and you're like really enjoying doing it. And I think that's the thing that I like the most about that band, is the fact that it's good music, but it's also, you can tell that that you're enjoying yourself as you're doing it. That makes sense?
Yeah. No, I take that as a massive compliment, because that, again, going back to that first gig we played, we were all heading home. My wife came down with us, and it was, I'm trying to think. So my dad came, my wife came, and then Mike and Tom went in a car with Mike's partner, with Mike's wife. And on the way home, Tom came back with us, and we were just absolutely buzzing in the car. And Adele said to me, "You know what? Like what that was, it was just fun, and that's what you should be. Like, you should always just try. That should be your key word going forward for anything." And a lot of the time, we get people, maybe people who like to smell their own farts a bit, like they sort of turn the nose up at us, thinking like we're being silly, or we're having, we're not taking things seriously. And exactly, we're not.
You should never take it seriously. No, it's
if that's your criticism of us, then don't follow this band, because no, we don't take it seriously. Yes, we are having fun, and hopefully you enjoy. We're there to entertain you. If you're entertained and you like the music, that's great. If that's not your thing, then I'm not offended by that at all. But you are not going to get what you want out of this band if you are not in for fun and entertainment.
Brilliant.
Can I ask where the name came from?
Yeah, so Salt the Snail is a reference to Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and
I kind of thought it was, because someone, I think it was Jamie Cornish, had mentioned it to me about it, but I just wanted to make sure. It is, and it causes no end of trouble in different ways, because I recall one time a girl just started giving us a load of stick on Twitter saying, "You shouldn't harm snails, you shouldn't harm snails." And I was like, it's not saying. So the way I argue, because she wouldn't take that, it's from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and they're not talking about a snail. They're talking about a woman who they call Gail the Snail, and they stop on her to get rid of her. Right? Anybody can find that clip on YouTube. It comes up on YouTube. This girl wasn't having any of that, so the way I appeased her was to say, the band isn't saying for you to salt a snail. It's about a snail that is called Salt.
Right. Okay. So that's crazy, right? Because both you and Tom, normally when I ask band, like I'm talking to people who in bands, that's normally question one. It's where did you get there? And it genuinely never occurred to me to ask, because I always just thought, oh, it's just like it's a joke on like playing like salting cells.
Yeah. Well, that's where it provides the most trouble for us, in that people don't think that it's a joke, and they don't understand they don't know what the reference is, so they think that we're inciting race hate towards snails.
Brilliant.
What is the songwriting process within Salt the Snail?
Well, I'm not sure if there is one. I mean, like I was saying, when we used to just write in the studio, me, Mike or Tom have no like songwriting like education at all. There's no, like, none of us have done music courses at school or college or university or anything like that. So you probably hear in our music that you can hear at the point of which we were writing that song that we've just gone, we end it there. And that's why nothing goes longer than like 2.5 minutes, really, because we get to the point where you might put in like a bridge or a bit of dynamics to make it work as a song. And at that point, we usually just go, no, just leave it there and just move on to the next one. We've now got George and Anne in the band, who are a lot more, I don't want to say that because that's an insult to Mike and Tommy, who are like outstanding musicians and amazing at coming up with new beats and riffs and stuff, but George and Ant are more adept at sticking to the idea of a songwriting process where you go, well, now we need to work on this, and now we need to go over certain parts and see what we can add, and hopefully we can refine that going forward with our future releases. Because I think one thing that we miss with our songs is when we come to record them, in the past we recorded our first single, Coffee, in the studio with Steve Cole.
Wow. And
since then we still recorded with Steve Cole, but in his Watch studio in Liverpool. And each time it's sort of like, oh, just plug us in and we'll record it, and that's that. And we've never really thought about overlays and overdubs and all those extra like backing vocals and things that you can do when you're recording. So most of the time, we've booked a session that's like maybe 12 hours long, and we get to the 6th hour and we're like, we're done now. So we just spend the 6 hours just drinking coffee and eating crisps. And nobody does any overdubs. So hopefully we won't be doing that in future. And we'll actually have like actual music that you might be able to listen to more than once without it sounding just like a nursery rhyme.
Yeah. No, I like this. Yeah. 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 I was gonna anecdote, but I didn't have an anecdote, so
that's an anecdote in itself. You'll tell that on the next podcast.
Oh, I'm not editing this bit out where I say I was gonna anecdote, but I'm not gonna. Cause...
Scratch that.
Wait.
Number 5, James.
So yeah, thank you. So would you like to introduce the song that's gonna play?
Yeah, absolutely. So the next song that's going to play is called Los Ingobernables de Internet, and it's a reference to a Mexican wrestling faction that are called Los Ingobernables de Mexico, or de Japón, which is like the ungovernables of Japan, it means. So This song is a bit of advice that I have for anybody in a lockdown when you're on your own and you might find yourself scrolling on Facebook or even worse in the YouTube comments on anything. Jesus. And my advice to you would be get the hell out of there, because it does no good for anybody. And all it is people trolling each other and being mean. So, these people are ungovernable and you need to accept that. So it's called Los Ingobernables de Internet.
Do you have trouble with the internet? Like that sounds like, do you have bad internet? No, I mean, like, do you have like
internet connection at home? The pain.
I mean, do you like have trouble with people like socially on the internet? Like
not as the band, because generally, like, we're very friendly and we're very kind, and we always, we try and make ourselves a community with anybody we know and things like that. But the internet scares the life out of me, because I feel like there's like a generation of people who, might be, I don't know what ages they are now, but they sort of have new words and new rules of ways to like sort of conduct how you behave socially, and only on the internet. And Definitely. I don't know any of these things, and I don't know what the rules are. And
it makes me laugh with people. Sorry, go on.
No, go on. What are you going to say?
I was just going to say that, like, it does make me laugh. It makes me surprised how people on the internet seem to have a lot more confidence, whereas they wouldn't say a single thing in person. Does that make sense?
Just the anonymity of online. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That you can hide your identity online, whereas in person you can't.
Yeah, it does scare me. I feel like sometimes I get paranoid because I know that I've never said anything. I mean, you could scour my social media as much as you wanted, and I know that I've never said anything that would get me in trouble or make anybody feel like I wasn't a nice person. You know, I try to be as nice as I possibly can, but it still very much unnerves me when certain rules get changed. And like one way of which I was thinking that then is say, I can't really think of a good example of it, but say it'd be like, well, that rule's changed now, so you can't behave like that. We don't use that word anymore. And I suppose you're expected to just constantly be scrolling on Facebook and constantly researching these things to find out what the new rules are. And, you know, another thing is there's a lot of policing that goes on. One thing that scares me a lot is with like this idea, say the example I'd use, because I feel like I'm sort of just going round in circles trying to make a point here. But an example I'd use is a lot with, say, conspiracy theorists now, right? I'm not personally a conspiracy theorist, but I know people who might be swayed with different theories, especially at a time like this, and no one has any appreciation of the fact that these people are probably just scared to death that there's this killer virus going around that they can't understand, and they're being told that they have to stay in their house or they're going to get a fine, or they can't do this or they're going to get a fine, and all this stuff. So the way of dealing with that is going down a rabbit hole of all these theories and misinformation. And so you have that kind of person, right? And I appreciate where they're coming from because you know, at the beginning of the virus, I was very much, my head was everywhere. I was like, I don't know what to believe anymore. And who does? Spend half an hour on Facebook. Who does know what to believe anymore? No. And the police of that very much scare me. The rules have changed around whether you can believe something and not be vilified and hated for it now. So I don't know why you couldn't believe or be scared of a vaccine without getting absolutely ruined on Facebook or YouTube, rather than someone just going, listen, here's some information that might settle you down, and you might be more open to getting a vaccine now. Maybe these people have seen Utopia or Hunters or some conspiracy fantasy program where they kill people with a vaccine and gone, oh, that scares me. No one's willing to turn around to someone anymore and say, listen, like, you know, here's some information to help you out. It's just vicious abuse.
I'll agree with that, because I mean, I'm a big conspiracy guy, but the conspiracies have changed since like when I was a bit younger to now. Do you know what I mean? Like, the atmosphere of conspiracies is just, it's not nice to be around anymore. Like, you used to be able to have like good conversations with people, like-minded people, and now it's just people like saying you're wrong and just calling it horrible stuff. Yeah,
no, I completely agree with that.
It turned into a massive snake pit. That's what scares me about the internet.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. That's the reason why I asked this question, was because obviously you mentioned about the internet, where a couple of years ago I kind of stopped going on Facebook, Twitter. So like I deleted Twitter, and I think I kind of deleted my Instagram in some way. And it's kind of like I stopped using it because it scared the living hell out of me. Like just the stuff that you can read online, and it's like, wow, okay, I can't do internet.
yeah. Like I'd say, you know, I know there's a lot of scary rumors and things that are actually dangerous. I 100% appreciate that. And if anyone's encouraging someone to go on, you know, on some sort of protest in the open where they're potentially going to catch and spread COVID, I am 100% against that. That's not what I'm saying. But I find now that nobody talks anymore. Nobody would be willing to convince those people why it wouldn't be a good idea to do it. They're more likely to just abuse them, which all that serves to do is strengthen their beliefs and make them feel like they're on one side and you're on the other, and they're not going to listen to you anymore. And I just feel like that's the most damaging way you can be.
Yeah, I had a thing, but again, just then, a couple of seconds ago, I was like, and also this is an interesting point, but I forgot it.
It's, you know what? Full of interesting points that you've forgotten this podcast. Absolutely.
That's all this podcast is, James forgetting.
It's an alternative universe where all I do is ask nice, really interesting questions and follow up with really nice anecdotes.
People are listening to it going, you know what my favourite bit was? That point that he forgot. that was really good.
Oh, Krystian, you don't want to open that rabbit hole. there's a whole back catalogue of me just going, yeah.
Yeah. You forgot a really good point there. really, really rounding on something.
So, what was the origin of Society of Losers? Did I steal your question, Josh?
Yeah, but it's fine. Go on.
Do you want to ask?
It's all right. You just asked him, James.
But both ask me if you want. It's the same question. So Society of Losers began. Me and Craig Twig from Infants, where we both started our bands. They were originally called Forever in Debt. Salt the Snail had played a very small handful of gigs. It was in 2016. It was maybe 2 or 3 gigs that we'd played. And Craig just asked to meet up. We went to the same school, but we never really knew each other that well. But I knew that he'd been in other bands and I'd heard Forever in Debt. And he asked to meet up, and we met up in Maguire's in Liverpool, which is where I put a lot of the Buddy gigs on there. It used to be like a second home to me. And we were just discussing, running a show that would be specific, like the idea, like this show is for losers, and we take over the venue, and we had this colour scheme, which everything was, I say colour scheme, we had a shade scheme, which was everything was going to be black and white. So when we were going to get like bunting and banners and everything, which we did all of these things, and we put on. I already had a gig booked with a band called Johnny Foreigner, who a lot of people might know. They were quite a well-known band, especially but from a while ago. They were on tour with a band called Sunshine Frisbee Laserbeam, so we had those booked. And then Craig Forever in Debt was playing, and Salt the Snail were playing. So we basically just put together this show, and it was like, right, let's do it as Society of Losers. That will be the birth of it, and that'll be our sort of thing, and we can use it as a vehicle to release our own music as well. And then at the time, I recall there just being like a lot of good music around and about in Widnes, and there had been in the past. It'd been, as we mentioned earlier, like I was in a band called Dirty Vagrants, and around that time there was also Springbok, there was Aeroplane Flies High, there was a band called Das Beat, there was Jazz Hands who had members from Widnes, there's Natalie McCool who's been around for years, there was a band called Goldjacks who had a member from Widnes, and loads beyond that. Like there's probably absolute tons that I'd forgot there, but a few years passed between then, and all of those bands had pretty much broke up or gone on, extended hiatus or whatever you want to call it. And it just seemed like, again, back in like around that time, there was ourselves, Forever in Debt, Bishnadar, and a couple of other people doing things in music that we were like, you know what? Let's just do it as a label, and we can start putting tapes out. And it expanded from there. We started seeing a couple of bands that we thought would really work with us. So there was a band called Wife, who were the first official, like Bishnadar and Wife were the first official signings, and we got a band called Dead Houses on, and we all just started playing the same gigs, and we'd send our bands over to the Ferret in Preston or over to Manchester. We'd put the show on ourselves and over to London, and we'd do that, and it just massively spiraled from there to what it is now, which is 11 bands, and we put out music from bands who aren't around anymore, who don't have the music on Spotify, and we run Loserpalooza, which is like a big all-day sort of festival in Manchester every year. And yeah, it just massively spiraled over the past couple of years.
Oh, that's excellent. That's really boss.
What advice would you give people who want to start their own record label?
Just do it. Honestly, there's nothing that you need to know to do it. I mean, if you look, here's my advice: if you look and do a bit of research on what Society of Losers is, maybe just look on our Bandcamp. And if you feel that that you could judge us to be an official record label, then there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't do that yourself. Because, other than like a lot of effort, and I have had previous knowledge, and we had our own bands to start things with. There's nothing else that I would say that is preventing you. By all means, like, there's massive steps that we could take to expand, and things that we will be doing in future to carry on growing as a label. And actual like big record labels would look at us as massively small time or whatever. But for what we've done between me and Craig and the bands, I'm like really, really proud of. It's grew to be something bigger than what we ever wanted. Now, we have our own podcast now. We put on tons of events. We have like 11 to double figures of bands now anyway, however many it is. And the advice I would just give is to plan it out. Maybe start just do your research into, like, listen to podcasts like this, any other episodes of this podcast that you might have people on who are giving out this kind of information. The Society of Losers podcast has a ton of people doing that. What the main thing I'd say we had is, when we started out with Society of Losers, was an image and an idea of what the label was going to be. So if you've got a clear idea, say you want to be like, right, I want to put out a dance, like an EDM label. So, okay, that's a clear idea. So then you want your branding right, and you want a couple of bands in mind that you go, like, they'd work with this. So we knew we wanted to have alternative, noisy rock music, essentially, and that the imagery and the branding would be quite grungy and reflective of, say, Sub Pop and labels like that from during the early 90s era, with like Dinosaur Jr. and Pearl Jam, Nirvana, and all those kind of bands. So we had an idea of what the imagery would look like, the name, and what the bands would be like, and then we just started it from there. I mean, you can go and get yourself a run of tapes if you want to do it as a tape label. They're probably £70 for 20 tapes, £100 for 50 tapes if you feel like you can sell that many. And then, say you look at CDs, you could get 50 CDs for X amount of money. You might want to throw yourself a little party to launch the label, so you have a little bit of money behind you. Just be smart, and then from that point, just be smart with your money, and have a set way of doing things. Like, we've got to the point now where we actually release records. So we released a record with a band called Sweet Deals on Surgery. It was our first one, and it was like, I'd say it was like quite a problematic release at the time, because we never released a vinyl before. We didn't understand about the turnover time, like how long it would take to make the vinyl and arrive and all that sort of stuff. We learned our lessons from that. And then when we released one with Salt the Snail, everything was great. And we had, we done like an orange, really nice looking 7-inch vinyl. And we've pretty much made our money back on it and everything like that. And then you can start generating some serious money and making bigger plans. So yeah, but my main advice would be, just do it, because if you want to do it, you'll have all those ideas in mind anyway.
So would you say that it's reliant on the genre, if that makes sense, of a label?
No, I think at first it was. That's a good question, actually, because I do think that, if we're saying this in terms of, like, if someone else wanted to get their label off the ground, as I say, like, if like EDM was the example I gave, people who are into EDM, they know who their market would be. So they and you might be able to go to another EDM show and flyer the show, or come up with a better idea than that. That's just off the top of my head. And you might have certain groups on Facebook, certain hashtags on Twitter and Instagram that you can use to identify that genre and its audience. With me and Craig, it was like that. So we could say, right, we want noise rock, garage rock, and alternative rock. There's 3 very broad genres there, but still, it's got this idea so that when you're marketing your gigs or your releases, you know who to market it at. From that point now, I feel like we've expanded into a lot of different things, because Mr. Ted, I don't think would they wouldn't be judged as, they're like alternative for sure, but not noise or garage. They're a completely different, on a completely different boat of their own. They're a really unique band. The same with Sweet Deals on Surgery. They're sort of like a punk band. I'd say Salt the Snail get lumped in with punk music quite a lot. And we're signing a lad called Jonathan Roberts who makes like classical. This is sort of like classical, awesome. Like an ambient music that would like go hand in hand with like a Midsummer, a film like that, or it's like music for like TVs and stuff. So he's joining label. His music is amazing. It's hard for me to explain, but there's an element of classical to it. He had one of his songs played on Radio 3 quite a lot. So we're putting some stuff out by him early 2021. Probably would have had more stuff, obviously, if this year had gone to plan, but. Yeah, so I think that genre-wise, we're expanding now, but I think once we started, it probably was a little bit reliant on that, yeah.
Right. Also, the other thing I was going to ask was, when you say tape, do you mean like proper little cassette tapes?
Yeah, like that's where we started at with little cassette tapes, and it's just a cool thing that I actually have a cassette tape player, and you can get CD players with tape decks on them. From, even though it's a thing from the 90s, but that's sort of the thing, and it's like it's a bit of nostalgia, and people get them because it's just like it's almost like a cool little ornament to have. I have like, we've released 6 different ones, and they're all a different color, and they're all quite bright colors. So it's like pink, turquoise, orange. I think there's like a blue one, and I just have them like lined up on my shelf, and it looks really cool.
That's boss.
Well, we usually sell out of cassettes quite quickly, but we're putting one out on the 4th of December, I think it is. They do, just let me check my calendar, because they do a Bandcamp.
Yeah, that's
4th of December. There will be another cassette, and it's from Lenny Dies, and it's got all of their releases on it, the first 3 singles that's on it. So, and there's only 20 made, so they usually, that's why they go so fast, because they're really sought after. Sell them by a Bandcamp, so be there on the 4th of December if you want one.
Definitely. I'll put that. Also, while we're promoting our own stuff, I'm putting some out for Bandcamp for Friday as well.
Oh, brilliant! Go on, tell us all about it.
So this is my podcast now, everybody. No, I'm doing an album, and the first like single is coming out on the 4th. Basically, in between the 2 lockdowns, Charlotte's producing it, and like recording it and stuff. And in between the 2 lockdowns, we managed to get 1 song recorded for it. So like I was like, okay, we need to put this one out for Bandcamp Friday then. And then hopefully when lockdown's done, we'll start doing that again.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So it's a song called All I Wanted, and it's really good, in my opinion.
Oh, really? Forward to that, mate. You'll have to send me the link in case I forget, but I'll try and I'll make a note in my calendar to make sure to listen to it.
Oh, cheers. Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's you go wild. You've got to promote yourself, haven't you? You've got to hustle.
Yeah. See, me and Josh have a running joke where, like, every episode I need to mention my music, and I got it. I got it out the way at the beginning of this episode, and I was really proud of myself because no one was like, No, I've just gone all out.
Gotta streamline it and just be like, I do music, by the way. Anyway, here's our next guest.
I feel kind of bad now because the next question is, where can people find you online?
People, the best place to find Society of Losers stuff, I think the best hub for it would be Bandcamp, and that's where you're going to find Salt the Snail anyway. On the Society of Losers Bandcamp, you'll find all of our bands there, and if you're a Spotify user, all of our bands are on that. So what I would suggest is go to Bandcamp first, find out who the bands are, and if you're Spotify, iTunes, or Amazon Music, anything like that, then you can go from there and find people on Spotify. Obviously, if you type in Salt the Snail in Spotify, you're going to find us. We have some music videos that are quite fun on YouTube, so probably just type in Salt the Snail, and once you've gone past the Always Sunny in Philadelphia video of Charlie Day throwing some salt on a snail, you will find several of our music videos. Same as Society of Losers. They probably all link into each other. Probably should make some sort of playlist. And type our name into social media and you will find us. We are Salt the Snail, that with the bright imagery.
Brilliant. And thank you so much for doing this, Krystian. I've really enjoyed this one.
Thank you for having me. I've absolutely loved it. It's been really good.
Oh, brilliant.
Nice.
Been happy to be a part of it.
I'll see you all soon.
See you later.
See you, lads.
See you later.